I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. The church continues to help in the Gulf Coast region. We'll talk to one priest about the environmental impact of the oil rig explosion.
We have to stand back and say, how are we misusing this creation?
There's always a place at Net's table. We'll hear from the hosts of Breaking Bread.
And a monument to change. A new play examines ethnic cleansing and genocide.
This is basically a play about two victims.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Uncertainty remains for the fishing families affected by the oil rig explosion that is leaking around 15,000 barrels of oil a day into the Gulf of Mexico.
One economist says the disaster could potentially cost Florida more than $10 billion, that's billion with a B, and nearly 200,000 jobs.
And the impact is even being felt right here in Brooklyn, where people gathered at a vigil in Prospect Park to express their outrage.
I think that's very important for citizens to take action, use the rights that we have to challenge our government and to demand changes.
We urge our senators and representatives, as well as President Obama, to make this tragedy a turning point.
The ocean is the regulatory system for the entire world. It is what keeps the temperature, calm, and it's where the carbon dioxide is sequestered. It's where the water goes in to make the clouds and evaporate. It's a lot of different things that happen in the ocean that affects the entire world.
This was a disaster that was many years in the making. Many people are really outraged at the irresponsibility of BP. It's mind-boggling to me that they allowed this to go forward without having serious regulation and an engineering plan that could solve something like this.
It'll affect our food supply. Like 30% of the fish that supplies the United States come from the Gulf.
The trash and the garbage that's washing up on the beach today, when it gets covered with the oil, will become hazardous material and will have to be removed by a hazmat team, which is going to cost millions and millions of dollars and be such a difficult situation.
I'm surprised that President Obama has not backed off of his plan to open up the Atlantic shores to oil drilling. I think that's a terrible mistake.
If we're on the sidelines, if we're sitting in the bleachers, we're not out there trying to make things happen.
I think we can do a lot as citizens. Obviously, we have rights to vote, to express our opinions.
Instead of going to the grocery and buying a cup of coffee with a plastic lid in a paper bag with some napkins and a plastic spoon in a plastic bag, we can bring our own cups. We need the power of God in our lives to direct us to make the right decisions, to choose on a daily basis what we can do that's going to be beneficial to the earth. When we honor ourselves, when we honor the earth, we're also honoring God and God's commitment to us and our commitment to God.
Well, the spiritual side of this crisis was clearly on the minds of those gathered in Prospect Park last night, and it is also getting the attention of others who are at the forefront of environmental causes, including the Franciscans, whose founder, St. Francis of Assisi, and also my namesake actually, is also the patron saint of the environment.
He is, and we wanted to get their perspective, the Franciscans' perspective on this. So earlier in the day, we spoke with Franciscan friar Father Dominic Monti from St. Francis of Assisi Church in Manhattan.
It's something that should cause us a lot of concern. Not simply the immediate effects of the oil spill, but what this great tragedy reveals to us about our habits of consumption, our dependence on fossil fuels. It raises much larger questions about the way of life we live in the developed world especially, and our need for the things of the earth, the way we control the things of the earth and manipulate them for our use and consumption. And as Catholics, this is an issue we have to be concerned about. We have to stand back and say, how are we misusing this creation? And for example, just one little statistic I learned the other day, that we in America use 45 million barrels of oil a year to produce plastic bottles for water. And it's a question of convenience for us, but is this bottled water any better than the water we get out of a tap? We see so much in our culture that it's looking at short-term gain rather than long-term consequences. and short-term gain is the oil companies want to make the most profits they can, and in that sense, they're favoring the bad habits of consumption that we have built up over the years. And we don't want to make the hard choices to change our patterns of consumption because it's going to affect us. It's easy to point fingers at the oil companies, BP's doing this, or point fingers at the government, and the government regulatory agencies aren't doing their job. But the point is the government and the oil companies are catering to our needs and our demands for commodities. And they want to make a profit, and the government doesn't want to get in trouble with oil companies, but it's a manifestation of a deeper attitude that we have.
And you know, Matt, I'm just back from a trip to Pensacola, Florida, the Gulf Coast, where I lived for a number of years. And a lot of my friends there, they live right on the beach, and they're really concerned, super depressed. And I even saw some of the tar balls that were down there as well, and some of the cleanup crews. And I know people are doing their best to deal with it, but they're really worried about their health and also their property values and their livelihood.
Yeah, definitely a very, very difficult situation there. The Franciscans actually have a website detailing their response to this disaster in the Gulf. I've written more about that over on our website. All you have to do, go to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave.
Stay tuned. When Currents returns, we'll have the day's headlines, including more on the Gulf Coast. We'll meet a group that's bringing hope through music. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, a new play sheds light on a very dark topic, ethnic cleansing.
But first, let's turn to the day's headlines. The New York City Council today joined the fight to light up the Empire State Building in honor of Mother Teresa. Owners of the iconic Manhattan skyscraper denied the Catholic League's request to shine blue and white lights on August 26, which is Mother Teresa's 100th birthday. Council members considered a resolution calling for the honor at today's meeting. Meantime, Empire State Building Management released a statement this afternoon saying, aside from lighting up in honor of Christmas, Hanukkah, and a few other religious holidays, they have a specific policy against any other lighting for religious figures or groups. A school board in Connecticut decided Tuesday night to fight a federal judge's ruling barring 2 high schools from holding graduation ceremonies at a church. In the ruling, Judge Janet C. Hall said holding a public school graduation in a house of worship would be an unconstitutional endorsement of religion. Just days ago, members of the Enfield School Board voted not to appeal, but reconvened Tuesday and changed their decision. And there's more classroom controversy now, this time from Florida. A teacher at a private Christian school in St. Cloud said she lost her job for having premarital sex with the man who is now her husband. As we hear from Mike DeForest, the former teacher is fighting back with a lawsuit.
Jaretta Hamilton had recently gotten married, she says, and had just learned she and her husband were expecting a baby. So in April of last year, the 4th grade teacher approached administrators at Southland Christian School to ask about taking maternity leave the following fall.
And then that's when the question was posed to her, did you conceive prior to marriage?
According to Hamilton's attorney, the teacher told her bosses the truth. The baby was conceived about 3 weeks before the couple's wedding. In other words, Hamilton inadvertently acknowledged to having premarital sex. 1 week later, school officials fired Hamilton and would not let her finish out the semester.
Well, it certainly devastated her.
Hamilton's attorney later received this letter written by the school's administrator explaining the reasons for the teacher's firing. Jaretta was asked not to return because of a moral issue that was disregarded, namely fornication, sex outside of marriage. The letter concludes, "We request that Jaretta withdraw her complaint and consider the testimony of the Lord."
That's the basics of the school, is that we have certain morals that we believe in.
Scott Bickle, whose 2 children attend Southland, supports the school's decision to uphold Christian values.
We all remember good and bad teachers in our lives, and the characters of those teachers, I think, it's very credible.
But Hamilton's attorney believes any morality clause in the teacher's contract cannot override state and federal discrimination laws.
Her performance was outstanding. Even when she was being terminated, the administrator stated that she was an outstanding teacher.
And that is Mike DeForest reporting.
An update now on last week's murder of the president of the Turkish Bishops' Conference. Bishop Luigi Paravisi died after being stabbed multiple times by his driver. Now, a Vatican expert says Bishop Paravisi was supposed to travel to Cyprus along with the Pope, but he canceled those plans over fears his driver would try to kill Pope Benedict. Catholic News Agency reporting today Turkish government officials called the bishop last week to tell him that the driver had gotten out of hand and embraced the fundamentalist cause. Bishop Paravisi then canceled his travel plans but was killed just hours later. The driver reportedly admitted to the stabbing. Well, as we showed you earlier on in the show, the Gulf oil disaster hits home for people all around the country. But a church choir from Oklahoma is on a mission to bring back hope to Gulf Coast residents in the form of music and prayers. Haley Hines reports.
Climbing up the mountain, children. As the sun slowly creeps over the Gulf, heavenly voices resonate across the sand. This choir group from McFarland United Methodist Church in Norman, Oklahoma is on a mission of hope.
We're going to Tallahassee, and then we're going to Tampa.
Bringing their inspirational music and praying at each shoreline for intervention, guidance, and protection. They're praying especially for hope for the people and wildlife whose lives are devastated.
There's great minds everywhere trying to figure out what to do, but at the end, just let God take care of it. He'll do what he needs. What needs to happen will be done.
The Lord is going to take care of whatever it is that's on my mind or on your mind, on anyone's mind, and he can just wash everything away.
And finally, the 2010 World Cup soccer tournament gets underway later this week in South Africa. And one Mexican cardinal says he hopes athletes and fans will rediscover sports as a gift from God to practice the values of human life. Cardinal Norberto Rivera Carrera says sports offer people an opportunity to grow spiritually and overcome the difficult challenges that human beings are called to face in competition. Now, the tournament kicks off in Johannesburg on Friday with a matchup between South Africa and Mexico.
And I know a lot of my friends will be watching. If they call in sick on Fridays for all summer, that's
right,
why.
That's it.
Stay tuned. There's more currents coming up. Just ahead, hungry for a different type of food show? The hosts of the Net's Breaking Bread will talk about their new season.
I'm dragging Monsignor all over the place a little bit more this time around. And, you know, we're getting in there and cooking more and just having fun as usual.
Welcome back. Well, here at the Net, we pride ourselves on offering food for thought and food for the soul. But you can also find the other kind of food, too.
Absolutely. No secret. It's the kind that I really like. It's just plain food. And you can sample some of it every Wednesday on Breaking Bread. Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello and Tati Amara visit neighborhood restaurants and really get in there and get a taste of the city. Well, we got a taste of that when they stopped by recently to talk about the new season of their show. Tati and Monsignor Jamie, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here.
As you know, because, well, I am me, food is one of my favorite things ever. I talk about food so much on the show. You guys get to talk about food all the time on your show, so that's got to be awesome. It's Breaking Bread. It comes on Wednesdays at 8, repeat at 10. Tell us a little bit about the third season. And Tati, I guess we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about the third season and what might be a little different this year.
Well, there are a couple of things different. For one, I'm dragging Monsignor all over the place a little bit more this time around. And, you know, we're getting in there and cooking more, and we're cooking together more, right?
Yes.
And just having fun as usual.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like progressed on its own. It's taken on its own kind of life, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the first season, you know, we really stayed in Brooklyn and Queens, and now we branched out to Staten Island, Manhattan.
Right.
In fact, just last week we were in Rayos in Manhattan, up in Harlem. We went to an Ethiopian restaurant.
We did.
And it was great. Down in Little Italy, we were, you know, so we're getting around.
Branching out a little bit.
Exactly.
Well, the third season started this past week with an episode which started actually at your parish, Monsignor.
Yes.
And I loved seeing, there was the cook there at the parish,
Laura, right?
Laura, made this homemade pasta that just looked amazing.
Yes.
You know,
It is.
if you think it looked amazing, it tasted amazing.
So, how lucky you are to have her there to be able to cook for you all the time.
She's wonderful. I mean, she's rare. I mean, you don't find too many cooks in a rectory like her because she grows her own tomatoes, then she jars them so that we have them all year long. You know, she grows her own vegetables, so it's great. And she makes a homemade bread. She makes homemade pasta and
donuts,
donuts, homemade donuts.
The donuts were
she would
amazing.
say donuts.
Donuts, yes.
But she came to this country as she said in the show, over 40 years ago with her husband and her pasta machine.
Right.
And that was so. And I always say, what was more important, your husband or the pasta machine? She said both.
The pasta machine. Right. Well, are you going to be doing more things like that as well? I mean, you know, going and having actual, you know, cooking segments with people, because I know you've done that some before, and you've seen how things are made. Are we going to be seeing more of that in the future?
We'll tell them. We'll tell them. Yeah, we'll be doing a little bit more of that.
Okay, all right.
And it will be Monsignor and myself doing a little something for the
Yes,
audience,
yes.
right?
Awesome. Actually, this season that started last week will be like the old format, where we go into different restaurants and doing a little more cooking ourselves. But when we start filming the fourth season in September, every show will have one segment of Tati and I cooking. We'll invite people to come in. We're going to be doing winemaking. We're going to show how we jar the tomatoes and things like that. You know, little home recipes.
Yes, and Monsignor has even arranged for me to learn how to make cheese.
Nice.
Yes, so we're
homemade cheese,
always
homemade
working.
mozzarella.
Yes.
Always working on new things, branching out there. I love it. I love it. Well, of course, it is now the third season, and you said, as you said, the show's kind of taken on a life of its own. I know that from experience here. The show does kind of take on a life of its own. Where do you see it going now? Now, I noticed, I'll say this, in the first episode, which I watched, which was amazing. If you've missed it, check it out online, netny.net/breakingbread. Check it out there, because it's right there on the homepage. But you also kind of went to, did something a little different. Monsignor, you went first to one of your favorite restaurants, and then Tati went to one of her favorite restaurants. Is that also something we're going to be kind of seeing a little more of, or is that like kind of maybe a one-time thing?
You'll see more of that. You'll see more of that.
Because I thought that was really cool. Now, this is the restaurant that you went to was, I believe, one where you had a celebration, actually a restaurant that you've been going to for years, and you had your celebration when you became a Monsignor there as well.
I've been going to that restaurant over 20 years. In fact, when I was ordained 15 years ago, right after the ordination, I had a little party there as well. So it is one of my favorite restaurants, and it's a fun place, and it's amazing how many people watch the show. That I'm surprised. And I mean, Tati, she was just telling me a few minutes ago, she was walking down the street and they'll say, hey, aren't you Tati from Breaking Bread? Aren't you the priest from Breaking Bread?
That's awesome.
And in fact, I was at the restaurant last night, Giando's, and the owner said to me that she just got a call. Someone was watching the show, never been there before, and made a reservation.
That's awesome.
That's so great.
I mean, the show, really, a lot of people do watch it. I mean, which is good.
That's great.
But we will be going to different places that, kind of like our favorites.
Yeah, awesome. One more question before we have to wrap it up here for each of you, and just, I guess, a quick answer from each of you. What's your favorite thing about doing Breaking Bread?
Well, for me, I graduated the Culinary Institute, and that's how I got involved in the show. And I worked for 10 years in hotels and restaurants. And for the last 15 years, being a priest, I really haven't had much time to cook. And doing the show has really helped me to get made a desire in me to cook again. I have this desire to cook, and I already had a few dinner parties, and also it has stimulated again something that I love to do but didn't have the time to, but now I'm going to make the time to do it. So I love going into the kitchen and doing those cooking segments.
Right.
For me, that's the best part of it.
That's great. Tati?
And I would definitely have to say, for me, I am so comfortable on Breaking Bread because, like Monsignors, went to culinary school. I grew up in a restaurant. My family's been in the food business for over 35 years, and I'm comfortable. It's natural. I get to do something that I also love to do, and I get to do it with someone great, and the crew is great, and we just enjoy ourselves. Breaking Bread is really a blessing.
Well, it's great, and the show looks great, and the food looks amazing always. And you guys are, we're very thankful to you for bringing it to us. So, as I said,
it's awesome. It's not work.
Yeah, exactly. So
It
I
really
love food
is.
too. So, thank you so much, and thank you so much for both being here. We'll link up to, of course, you guys on the website there, and give folks more information on our blog about.
And maybe
Breaking
we
Bread.
can get you, Matt, on our show one day.
Yeah, Matt.
You have a recipe?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I might have a few. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Might get some Southern food in there.
Okay, good. That's a deal.
That would be awesome.
Great.
Yeah, we're kind of
That's
reeling in more of our
Yeah.
net family to come on some of
There you go.
the episodes.
I'd be glad to.
Okay.
Thanks so much, you guys, for
Thank
being here.
you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
You had fun on that one.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I told them after the interview was over, I said, next time you guys come in here, I said, you've got to bring some food. Or like we'll do like a little, almost like a little morning show cooking segment or something, you know?
We're going to build a kitchen here in the current studio. Yeah.
Get a little hot plate or something anyway.
It's funny when they were showing the woman that made the pasta. I remember my Nana used to make pasta, by hand, and she didn't have a pasta maker. She would roll it out for 13 people every day and hand cut it and hand slice it, and so it really but brings back a lot of memories. But that's some good stuff.
Oh gosh, yes. It's like, just looking at that, I'm like, this is the real thing. This is authentic Italian food. This is not going down to the major chain Italian restaurant. This is not going to the store and buying dried pasta. This is the real thing. And she showed you how to make it, and it was great. It looked wonderful.
And the other thing that I think is sort of part of the whole point of the show is to be thankful for the bounty that we have when we can break bread.
Absolutely.
Because not everybody can do that. And, not everybody has the bounty that we have and that we show in the show. So
the food and the fellowship, two of my favorite things.
Absolutely. we like. Right. Quick reminder here, Breaking Bread airs Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, right after Currents, and you can check out more by visiting the net website. That's netny.net. And tomorrow night, we're going to have a look and also to give a listen to our music video show, Ichthus EQ.
In the meantime, though, stay with us. We'll be right back. When we return, a message of morality in The Monument. We'll take a look at this powerful play.
Is that where your strength is, Stinko, and hatred?
Finally tonight, a story about violence and responsibility. Those are just some of the themes in a powerful play called The Monument, now running in Manhattan. It tells of a soldier who is guilty of horrific war crimes and how he's forced to confront the consequences.
It's being staged by a Catholic theater group called the Ligurian Players. It's part of RETMA. That's an acronym which means Redemptorist Evangelization through Media and the Arts. And we caught one of the performances this past weekend.
I'm not going to say I'm sorry if that's what you're waiting for. What difference would it make? It won't bring them back. It won't undo what I did. It won't make me a better man.
Won't it?
This is basically a play about two victims, the soldier and the mother. Two different sides of the story, and yet the war stopped and they're both devastated. He's going to be electrocuted, accused of war crimes.
I don't care who wins the war. It was just a job. I guess rape is just part of it.
A mysterious woman shows up and makes a bargain that I can either stay and die in the electric chair or go with her on condition that I must obey everything she says. She forcefully gets me to remember what I've done and ultimately take responsibility for it.
You hate me!
Yes!
Why?
She is a victim of genocide. Her daughter has been murdered, and she wants revenge.
Is that where your strength is, Stinko, and hatred? If you hate enough, you can lift a mountain or kill a people on command.
I don't hate them.
You kill people you like. Well, learn to hate me, Stinko. Because you want to lift that rock up on command or be buried alive in this field.
It's easy, I think, to make Shteko a monster. But basically, he did what he was told. The kids would have maybe a week of training before they would go off and fight. And they were only taught to follow orders. That was it. He is convicted of raping and killing 23 girls during the course of the war. He has basically blocked everything from his memory. And part of the process of the show is his remembering exactly what happened.
The other thing that was critical, I think, with this man is that his violence came out of earlier violence. And, you know, if there's no way of healing that, either spiritually or psychologically, then we're in serious trouble.
exactly what's going on today, right now. This story needs to be told because too many kids are being lost in war. And I get emotional just thinking about it now.
This piece is a very challenging piece. It's not an easy piece to watch. It's definitely not for children. It's adult topics about war, murder, rape, things that happen today. And how do we respond to it, you know? Do we remain silent or do we take some action?
Some pretty powerful themes there.
Definitely very heavy, as you said. You know, not for kids, but you know, it's something that I think, as she said there, as the female star said, it's something that's very relevant today because with 2 wars going on in the world, a lot of the themes kind of come back around. It kind of all seems to come back full circle, the circle of life, I guess you could say. But yeah, it is very relevant, a very relevant topic to even be talking about now.
Well, I mean, art has a way of making us ponder things like genocide in a way that the literal, reading the newspaper,
Right.
hearing things on the news, sometimes, you know, throws it up in our face directly. Sometimes through the lens of art, like a play like this, we can really see something that we might not always see.
Right. It's you know, it has to do with the presentation because I mean, you open up the newspaper and you get the facts, the ABC of what happened. But then you go to see something like this and you actually see someone presenting an interpretation of it that makes you think, that really does. It gets you to think. And so that's obviously the goal here. Yes, right. And not just read about what happened.
Well, the play is running through this Sunday, and we have more about it on our blog. Just visit currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave.
Well, that is all for tonight. Now, coming up tomorrow, if you're frightened or anxious, who can you turn to? We'll introduce you to the saint offering many people hope and also healing. In the meantime, though, remember you can always watch us online. We're over at currentsny.net on the World Wide Web. Check out our Facebook page as well.
Until next time, I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.